This week on Hope City Overtime, we talk about what it means in the middle of anxiety to serve a God who brings peace that passes all understanding. Specifically through the holiday season, this is one you're going to want to like, subscribe, maybe even share it with a friend. Let's get it.
Welcome to Hope City Overtime, a weekly podcast where we take a little more time to dive into Sunday's message, Thanksgiving edition. That's why we're all apparently dressed like turkey.
That's right.
We did not coordinate this, but just got it on the mind. Mm-hmm. So before we get into the message, it's Thanksgiving week. What are your plans?
That's a great question. Not a lot of them, which is so nice.
That is nice.
Going to stay home. We got some people coming over, I think. I don't know. And we're going to probably watch the Macy's Day Parade because we do that every year.
I love the parade.
And then at one point or another, the ovens will all start going ding and we'll eat food. And it'll be great.
That's such a different perspective from someone who's cooking.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And I know it too.
What about you, Michaela?
Yes. Thursday, we're going over to my in-laws' house, and I'm making corn casserole, which is my favorite thing to make for Thanksgiving. And then John Wayne is making cornbread from our own corn from our garden.
Cool.
So we had our first little test run yesterday. It was delicious. I brought some for lunch today. It's
now,
from Jimmy Red Corn. So.
Do you make it sweet or do you make it like not sweet, your cornbread?
So we did one of each loaf kind of thing, one sweeter than the other. The sweeter one was definitely my pick. And
it's almost like a cake.
Yeah. It was so good though. Yeah. It's a lot bigger of a grain than I'm used to, but it was really good.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. I'm going down to Atlanta this year.
Woo.
Yeah, not normal. Normally everyone comes to North Carolina, but it's been a little bit of a crazy year for the Kramers. So
okay, so we didn't talk about this.
No.
But it's the holiday season.
It is the holiday season.
And the Kramers have some pretty big news.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some exciting stuff.
Yeah. My mom, Ann Kramer.
That's right. Our very own.
Our very
part
own.
of Hope City
Yes.
West and soon
and
to
near
be
and
East.
dear to our hearts. At least mine as her offspring. She has written a book and it is published. It is a Christmas book that's particularly for moms who struggle with what it looks like to spend time sitting at the feet of Jesus during his birthday season while also having school performances to go to and feeding their families and getting gifts and decorating the house and all the other things. So it's based around the story of Martha and Mary in the Bible, and it's called Wishing Martha a Merry Christmas, Mary. And
love the play.
I love it. I'm not even the total target demographic, and I have gotten so much out of it.
Yeah. So it's been amazing to see your mom kind of wrestle through this over the last several years, even.
Yeah.
Specifically this year as she's kind of buttoned down and kind of focused all energy in getting this book out. And the timing of it couldn't have been better as people preparing to like create gift lists and parties and things of that nature. I would just argue if you have a mom in your life that you know this season brings them an extra level of tension between all the things that need to get done and the meaning of the season, this would be a great tool to put in their hand.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
I'm careful with the wording here because I'm not saying gift, wait for Christmas. I'm saying tool, get it to them now so that they can prepare better as the season begins to ramp up. And I'm sure Dom will put the link to the Amazon or whatever.
Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com.
If you're local,
it's at Park Road Books.
Come on.
We're excited.
And that Amazon purchase 15 minutes ago, that was me.
Come on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. I forgot where we were going from that, but I'm really, really excited about this book. And it's just been cool because I've lived it. Like there are anecdotes from my childhood in there. She did write by us. But then also like you said, to watch her wrestle through some of this for the last couple of years and then to read several drafts as she was working on it. I think the highest compliment I could give her is I was like, I would love this book and recommend it if it was not written by my mother.
I love that.
But it is. So cool. Wishing Martha a Merry Christmas. You're welcome, Mom. She had no idea we were doing this.
She should be thanking me, not you.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
You can tell her you're welcome.
You're welcome, Mom.
So we are at the very end of our In Everything series. We've spent the last 4 weeks walking through Philippians 6 and 7. Don't worry about anything, but pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for what he's done. And then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Over the last 4 weeks on our team, but even outside of our team, like within our church, I feel like things have happened that it's just such a God thing that we've been in this passage. I don't know how many times I've heard people be like, I wasn't expecting this, but just over and over in my head, it was tell God what you need and thank him for what he's done. Or I know for me personally, there was a time that I was praying for some people and it was just like, let the peace of God guard their hearts and minds, guard their hearts and minds. How have you just kind of noticed the timeliness of this whole series?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
It doesn't have to be in your life.
Yeah, but it has been in my life in a couple ways. It's been a challenging season at the family level. It's been a challenging season at the ministry level. It's been a challenging season for our city across the board. So when it's a challenging season across the board, often those challenges get reflected in the pastoral workload and weight of that workload. And so because of that, one of the things, like you said, the best compliment I can give my wife, or my mom, the best compliment that we can receive in preparation of writing messages is the timely nature of it. And it has just been obvious that God's hand's been all over this, not just for me personally, but for our church as a whole. I do feel like we are walking into a new season with some new tools. And a new tool set to navigate some of those deep anxieties that we've been carrying for so long.
Yeah. I know this is a little bit of an overview before we get into this message. Of these, has there been anything that for you personally, like it may not be a new tool to you, but was maybe underused that you feel like God's just kind of reminded you of in this season?
I would say, this last week talking about how God guards us. It kind of really rocked my world a little bit, because thinking that God goes before us in like defense and is very active in that, it's just really touching to think about. So
yeah, I love that.
We did a lot of work on brain science. A lot of work is probably a stretch.
You use we loosely. You did a lot of work and then taught us the stuff. I know the word amygdala now.
Yeah.
Prefrontal cortex.
And prefrontal cortex. And gray matter. Hippocampus, yeah.
There you go.
But in that, to see how the brain responds to gratitude specifically is fascinating. And I just think I've been reminded of the power of the words that come out of our mouth. Just not just in what we think, but just that ability to deliver those gifts of gratitude, and how that is, yes, something that the Lord asks of us, but in turn it's something he asks for us because he knows what it does in us. And that's been powerful.
Yeah. I think similarly, remembering that Thanksgiving is a tool, not just a response.
Yeah.
So knowing in those moments where you just get a text message or you hear news that's heavy, choosing right then, like, God, there's still so much that I'm thankful for, and I'm going to say it out loud unless I'm surrounded by a crowd of people that I can't in that moment. It's been really helpful. Like, I think that's a tool that I knew about, but wasn't using to the ability that God maybe wants us to. So this Thanksgiving week, be thankful.
There you go.
You won't hear it anywhere else. So this week in particular, we focused on his peace. And Michaela, you did a lot of the writing on this message. And the first point that you brought out, I mean, walking right through Paul's passage, is his peace exceeds understanding. So I'm going to make an unfair question. His peace exceeds understanding, but if you were to try to describe his peace to someone who has not experienced it, how would you do that?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I would say it's kind of like what I said in my message, is it's not a feeling that everything makes sense, or it's not a feeling that everything's better. It's a feeling that someone's there, that you feel seen and you felt held.
That's really good. Say. You have any?
Yeah. Living in South Florida for years, one of the things you learn to deal with is hurricane seasons. And I have sat through direct hits of hurricanes several times in my life. And that's not, unless you live in Florida, that's not anything most people can say. But in Florida, man, every hurricane season, something hit us right on. And there is this weird window in the eye of the storm. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but all the trees are being thrown left for however long it takes for that storm to move. And then the wind absolutely stops.
It's dead.
And it's odd because there's not even birds in the air. Everything is just in this state of stillness. And then on the back end, the wind comes and everything moves right. And that's the nature of being in the eye of the storm. It's funny because most injuries happen in the eye of the storm because people think the storm's done.
Oh.
So they'll go out and do things, depending on how fast the storm moves, that could be 5 minutes, that could be an hour. And how big the storm is. And I do feel like to some degree that stillness is where, that's the closest thing that I'm in the middle of a hurricane, but there's peace here. I'm surrounded on all sides, but there's stillness. And for me, talking to someone who's never experienced that, I kind of would point to that picture of, no, you can be surrounded on all sides and still feel the stillness that comes because you know who you're with, who's holding you. And I think that that's huge.
Yeah. This is, I guess, a little bit of like a preview, but because last night we had a rehearsal for Hope is Born.
Come on.
And one of the things that we're going to talk about at Hope is Born is his peace. And if you've never been to Hope is Born before, we'll drop that ticket link in the description too, because one of my favorite things is that we have real people from our church family share their own experiences and God's faithfulness. And the person who's speaking about peace, I'm not going to throw her name out there, even though she's doing it publicly because I didn't talk to her about it first, has such a powerful testimony. And she described it as in a moment feeling that God could hold her grief and her hope, and she could just be like, she didn't have to be the one trying to hold on to all of that. And I've been thinking about it all day long since hearing her share that. Like, what a great picture of God's peace. It doesn't mean that the grief goes away. It doesn't mean that there's no celebrating, no hope. It just means like he's holding it all together so that you don't have to. Yeah. And you can just be still.
Yeah. In all those stories last night, in all the stories that are prepped for Hope is Born, it's just obvious that the Spirit of God was working in and through each of them, even in their nose. Even in those seasons where the doors were closed, and it's this just seems like, how in the world are you working in this? The way that they just honestly revealed their brokenness, and we were able to see how God worked. It was just a powerful moment, even in practice last night. Yeah. And I cannot wait for Hope is Born. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, it is going to be incredible. December 19th,
Come
7
on.
p.m.
Come on.
I think.
Par Theater.
At the Par Theater.
Yep.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it's 7
Uptown
p.m.
Charlotte. Let's go.
Elizabeth Avenue.
That's
we're
right.
east now. We're not Elizabeth, but still partial. So talk a little bit about the Israelites after they had left Egypt when they came up against the Red Sea, because this is where we kind of spent a chunk of time talking about God's peace and how it shows up. What kind of situation were they in?
So basically what was happening is after they fled Egypt, they were going to go. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened. God hardened his heart, and Pharaoh was like, wait a minute, why do we even let them go? And so the Egyptians started chasing the Israelites as they were fleeing, and they were coming up to the Red Sea when the Israelites were coming behind them. So there was no way out. And so that's what was happening, and it opened the stage for a miracle to happen. And the Lord made a way, and they got to go through the Red Sea. And the Lord parted the Red Sea for them. And then as the Egyptians were there, the Lord said, don't worry, they're never going to be seen after today. And then he flooded the Red Sea back in. So they all drowned.
I think it's so important in stories like this to remember that they really happened to real people who didn't know what was going to happen on the other side. Like, even if they had faith and trusted what God said, they didn't know how he was going to deliver them. Because we get so used to hearing like, he'll make a way, he can part the Red Sea. And it's like, but he had never done that before. they experienced it, and yet they had peace available to him and to them in the middle of that. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
Well, I think
Good.
what I love
Thanks for
about
jumping in.
you're welcome. What I love about the passage is it does showcase how they catastrophize the moment, right? They start saying things to Moses like, here comes this dangerous army, the Red Sea's in front of us. Was there not enough graves in Egypt? Why'd you bring us out here to die?
Yeah.
And they start longing for the change of their captivity in the middle of this an impassable obstacle in front of them, this destructive army behind them, and they start doing what a lot of us do in that spiral. So again, the science, the amygdala, fear center of the brain begins to light up, and we start moving to this place where our new reality is meshed and come together with old trauma. And so we begin to think worst case scenario, we're going to die here. How many times has a thought that seemed at the beginning to be harmless spiraled to death at one point or another? The death in you, the death of other people, the death of your children. And what I love about the story is it's all there. You see the Egyptians do what we do with anxiety. It allowed them to move to this place of spiraling, of this uncontrollable place. And what's so refreshing about the passage is it echoes what we see in Philippians, right? So God's response is stand still. Don't worry about anything, but in everything, stand still.
Yeah.
And watch how I do the work, right? In order that you could glorify, in order that you can see my hand move. Again, in prayer, petition, and thanksgiving, he's giving them a reason to be thankful in the middle of their storm, and then he shows up, and it's incredible. So I've always loved this story because it doesn't shy away from the spiral.
Yeah, and even putting it into our perspective, like I know in my heart that at least some of the Israelites had to, whenever they're fleeing their old, people that they used to be captives of, they were probably like, "Oh, you're not going to make it. This is going to be terrible for you. This is like sure death." And then as soon as they see the Egyptians closing in them, and then the water, they're probably like having those thoughts come back into their mind, like, "Oh my goodness, they were right." And then sometimes it wows me to think that this actually happened, because when the Lord split the Red Sea, like think about kids passing through there, like they see fish, like and everything, and it's like, no, we gotta keep moving, and then I would be distracted myself. But to think that actually happened, like the sea had to have been above them, it had to have been terrifying to pass, thinking, oh my goodness, this could close at any minute. And yet the Israelites still went. It would have been still scary to go through the water, but it took trust to even do that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how God made a way supernaturally, even though it was a real dangerous scenario that they were in. Because I think that's what happens sometimes when we talk about peace. We think to have peace means to like downplay the problems that you have. Like, oh no, those aren't that big a deal. It's going to be okay. Just have peace. But like, they're in a real place. You actually looked up on ChatGPT and then messaged us about it the night before. I don't know if you talked about it
A little bit
in all your sermons. You mentioned it in the one I was in, but you basically were like, pretend that I'm Moses and I've got the Red Sea on one side and an army on the other side. What are my options? And what did it tell you?
The first option was surrender.
yeah,
To turn around and figure out a way of surrendering. And again, logically, that's what would make sense. You're like, John, well, what do you mean? Well, the Red Sea was certain death. Surrendering, throwing yourself at their mercy, well, at least there could be a percentage that says some of you survive, right? Like, so I understand why Chat went to that solution. But to know that God called them to a different place and that it's beyond our logic, I think is powerful.
It's beyond AI's logic, which
That's it.
may not be saying much. Sometimes AI is great and sometimes it doesn't know what it's talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting, I would never have thought to ask Chat.
Well, because I think as a leader, there are moments where the question comes from those who you're called to lead. like, how do we get past the next obstacle? And you do your best to bring people around, to ask good questions. And I just immediately thought Moses sitting around with his counsel. And one of them was like, well, we don't know what to do. And I was like, has anybody got their phone with them to pop out ChatGTP? I think we would do that in 2025.
Yeah.
So thought it was
And
interesting.
what's funny, right after, so we talked about Exodus 13 and 14, which ends with him saying, I don't remember the NLT, but the Lord your God will fight for you. You need only to be still. But then in the very next verse,
The get up and move.
yeah,
I know.
God's like, why are you still crying out to me? Go.
Move, yeah.
Like,
Yes.
and peace is what enables us to take those steps forward in the scariest situation. It's not just feeling comfort in the moment. It's like what enables us
Yeah,
to keep moving.
I think the line that I used was, peace isn't the absence of monsters, but rather being able to smile in the presence of monsters because you know the one that they have to bow to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wrote that I was taking notes of your sermon, even though I was preaching the next service, but I was like, this is amazing. I was like, have to put in monster analogy. And then I didn't, but it was good.
But it was, this message was just reminding me, David, Ruth, Esther, Moses, Elisha, Elijah, New Testament, Paul, John, Peter, Mary. Throughout Scripture, these men and women of the faith have always been able to see God bigger than the issue they're navigating, right? Even Jesus with Lazarus, like they just couldn't put their mind around that this guy is bigger than death. And he steps up to the tomb and he calls to death, and it demands, it has no choice but to obey. And so that ability and muscle to know that your God's bigger despite the size of the monster, I think that's just something we need in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. You, Michaela, mentioned when we were talking about the tools that that idea that his peace is guarding your heart and mind. We can kind of talk about both of them together. That's another word that has jumped out at me the whole time we've been talking through this passage, is that it guards us. What does it look like for his peace to guard our hearts and minds?
Well, I think it goes back to the word guard in and of itself. Like I said, on Sunday, it comes from that Greek word phureo, and it means to be like a militant guard against and like, actively defending. So whenever you acknowledge God's character of actively defending your heart and your mind, like there's things I believe he blocks that we don't even know about, and there's things in the heavenly that he's actively fighting against that we're just unaware of because our knowledge is so finite. But to acknowledge in a situation, okay, like, yes, God's got this, and you can say all the pretty things, but also I know that this points to something for his glory. Like, just keep on recentering your mind to remind yourself that Jesus is in control, and every single thing in my life I want to be for the glory of God. So this has to have a rhyme or a reason. But I don't have to know that rhyme or reason. I don't have to. God does. God does know that. But just giving yourself to freedom to not know every single thing, I think it's a mindset to definitely put yourself in.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Kevin Abankwa, after service, walked up to me. This is his word. That peace word is just his word. He loves it. And he talked about the garrison and how the historical context, like the cultural context of the time, garrisons protected all that was coming in. So like the idea that peace is guarded means that everything that walks in has to walk in past the filter of that guarding. But then he said it's also everything that comes out. So it's the reason why a part of a life lived in faith with the Lord is that we also not just experiencing peace, we also produce peace. Because everything out of our mouth should be navigating itself through the filter of that peace that guards us. And I was like, man, I wish you would have told me this a week ago. But it's just a great picture of that. it's not just guarding us from others. It's guarding others from us in how we speak and how we live. And I think it's just a beautiful picture of.
If you guys had one person that you instantly knew when seeing them and meeting them that they produced peace, who would it be?
That's a great question.
I mean, my mind goes immediately to the person that I talked about earlier, but haven't gotten permission to share.
You could have just said the name without doing that.
Could have. In my life, there was there's plenty. I mean, my sister Lisa. I have mentors in my life for years. My brother raised another one. Men of faith like Max Erie was always steady. Like he was a steady, and I see that as peace again. That the type of guy that all heaven seems to be shook, and he's like, no, I got it. Here's the three things, Rick Ross. Here's the three things you're gonna do. But ultimately, one of the saints that I believe God had positioned for me and others, but me specifically, I'm sure, who's no longer with us, is Terry Testinas.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Terry works for me as an admin for several years, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but I could not walk into a room, and if that room contained Terry, it was obvious that the peace of God was there before I walked in. And everything out of her mouth was peace. And it didn't mean that she was always quiet. There was moments where, because she was passionate about the thing, you saw that passion. I love that about her. But you can tell everything was filtered through the peace of the Lord, and I miss her. But when you say peace, that's one of the first names that come in my mind.
What about you, Ash?
Oh, I already ruined my.
Oh! I didn't know if you were thinking about someone else.
No, I was just listening. I wasn't trying really hard to like be present and not be like, I got to think of a person while he's talking.
No, I like that. For me, it would probably be I don't know, two ladies that come off the top of my head that actually go north are Tammy Dixon and Pat Kober. Consistently peaceful women. Like there was something about them when I first met them that I just instantly felt, oh, God's hand is over your life, and like war room women kind of things. So, yeah, that's who came to my mind.
I love that. I think a lot of times, for me, it tends to be people who have lived a little bit longer that I see this in, because I don't think it's anything that comes naturally to us. Like maybe there are some people out there who are just naturally, that's a gift that they have. But for most of the people that I know, I've recognized this in people who have been through some stuff. Like they've tested that, and found God to be faithful in a way that you can only know once you've tested it. Not that everyone should go out and look for trials, but I do think that peace tends to come from the people who have walked through the stuff that you're like,
listen,
how are you happy right now? Like, how are you functioning right now?
I say it all the time. It's the reason why we honor our seasoned saints so much. Yeah. We can't do this without them. The COVID, I could just imagine, so many of these seasoned saints that are like, you got to stay home for how long? That's cute. Like, you didn't live through, polio, and you didn't live through recession to the point that we're all in food lines. Like, I think sometimes because of the nature of our humanity, the monster that's the biggest is the one that's right in front of us. If you've gone to war with some big monsters, it's tough to shake you and some of this other. So they do a great job. That piece does a great job of putting things into perspective. I don't think we make it through the pandemic without some of our seasoned saints. They were just golden to me specifically during that season.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa was even a little excited because it was like a new scenario after he was in his 90s. And it was just like, I know God's got this. Like, I know we're going to be okay. I'm just kind of excited to see how he does it this time. So I do have a question. When it comes to his peace guarding our hearts and minds, like that is the active thing, but there has to be some level of our participation in it to allow his peace to guard our hearts and minds. Because I think just from living, you kind of know, like there are times where you can shut that off and and not accept that guard almost? Like, what does it look like for us to participate in allowing his peace to guard us?
I think this is a challenge because this is about muscle building, right? And it's also a challenge because until you really sat through the fire, like this isn't anything. It's tough to test, right? So, but to allow them really comes back to lean into the instructions, right? I'm not going to allow you to. I can't experience your peace if I'm not bringing everything before you. If I'm not through those petitions also giving thanksgiving. Like, so to allow God to play that guard is to bring everything to him. It's the wall. The wall's been built. We know where it is. The question is whether or not you choose to live behind it.
Yeah.
So I got to bring everything, but I got to pack my stuff up and bring it behind the wall. I can't stand on the outside of the wall and get mad that there's no protection. That doesn't make sense. I got to bring it behind the wall in everything through prayer, petition, and thanksgiving. And a part of being behind the wall is also recognizing how good he is. And that thanksgiving then does the work of guarding the heart. So that's what it means to turn that over. And as silly as and as simple as that sounds, the problem is we look for complexity when there is none.
Yeah.
Bring it all to the foot of the cross and be thankful. Those two things is what it means to move behind the wall.
Yeah. I actually talked about this, the shield of faith.
Yeah.
Because so much of our peace is tied to our trust, right? Like we use that verse in Isaiah, you will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. And that is the place that we can control. Like we have to choose what we fix our eyes on, who we put our trust in. And so to me, that's that shield of faith, which is also defending us against the fiery darts of the enemy. Because I think Emma says this a lot, like you can't control what thoughts fly over your head, but you can control whether or not they like settle in and make a nest.
Yeah.
And so like that's what that guarding looks like to me when I think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's holding up that shield, stopping those arrows from actually penetrating, like
Capturing of every
yeah,
thought.
yeah. It doesn't mean they're never going to come. It doesn't mean you're not going to have a random thought. That's why we've started every single one of these series. One of these messages has either been a thought hits you or you have a thought. Like none of them are like, you don't have thoughts anymore. But just like putting your trust in him when the thoughts do come.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I think I'm already at cutting room floor. You can tell it's almost Thanksgiving, guys.
That's true.
For this message, because we're going to get back to the whole series, is there anything cutting room floor that didn't make it into the message or didn't make it into our conversation that you want to make sure that we talk about?
I don't know. I think we spent some time at the beginning of our time talking about the importance of getting help when it seems overwhelming. And so I think we can do 4 weeks of this and people can hear, oh, well, it's just that simple. They're discounting counseling or they're discounting therapy. And we're not discounting that at all. I know for so many people to bring everything requires work.
Yeah.
Like,
we've all participated in that.
Absolutely. Like trusting in the name of the Lord is easy to write on paper, a little tougher when you've never really trusted anybody. Whether it's a traumatic past where you've had parents who've betrayed you or, maybe you haven't had parents at all and you've had to kind of figure out how to navigate life where you've been really self-dependent and reliant, or you've trusted in and you found deep seasons of disappointment because they hurt. I easily resonate with the idea of our Heavenly Father. Some of you, that's a struggle because the idea of dad is not a good one. So the kind of cutting room idea that we wish we could have spent a little more time on, and I just hope you didn't hear in this message, is that this is simple and that no one needs help doing this. There are seasons even in my own life where in deep seasons of darkness, I needed somebody to help settle some of the voices and reset some of the thinking that created space for anxiety. So whether it's professional counseling, whether it's therapy. And I'll go a step further. Like, I think God does things miraculously. And I also think he sometimes uses medicine. And for those who can't figure out that regulation, and there may be some things that are deeper going on, there's nothing wrong with leaning into what it is that your body needs. So I don't know how else to phrase that, but I do think it's an important reminder in this conversation around anxiety and worry. And
Yeah.
Yeah. No, something that I really enjoyed talking about was how our lives are too cluttered. You know, just having so many things that Christ has taken off the throne that he deserves to sit on. And I think that a lot of people, the chaos in their mind is almost self-induced, because it's like you have things that you can shed off your plate, and like the importance of boundaries and saying no. Like, I'm not going to go to 7 houses for Thanksgiving because that's insane. So I'm just going to stay at 1 or 2. Like, being able to do your own work to help that, because like if you say, yeah, you know, it's fine. It's a leadership lesson. If you say yes to 7 Thanksgivings, you can't get mad at all 7 houses for, you know, inviting you to their Thanksgivings. But I think that's important, just knowing what you can filter out versus also, I was talking to Alexis Griffith yesterday. Shout out to Alexis. I love you, homegirl. But she was talking about the importance of realizing that the promised land isn't the end result. Like, there was still work to do in the promised land when the Israelites got there. Like, it's not like everything was all set up for them and they just got to like move in and say, yay. Like, there was work to do. So you're not constantly working towards this one thing. You're working towards working even more. And so once you realize that, I think that
This side of heaven.
this side of heaven, but just being able to wrap your mind around that a little bit more, I think peace starts to set in a little bit more.
Yeah, I think sometimes we do think of it as a destination, and it's not that you're waiting to arrive at peace where nothing else is wrong. It's something that guards you as you walk through all the troubles that Jesus said you would have.
the phrase was, peace isn't a destination, or peace isn't a feeling, it's a fortress,
Yeah.
which I loved.
Yeah. Series wide. It's hard to believe. Like, I feel like we were in the wait forever and then we blinked and this one was over, even though it was a whole month, 4 weeks in this series. What's your biggest takeaway?
This series,
Notice I didn't say we were leaving this one.
yeah. This series stopped becoming a sermon series pretty radically Friday for me and my family. We live a block and a half away from the Concord tree lighting. And for those of you who maybe don't know, there was a shooting that happened with several thousand people waiting for the tree to be lit. And our son was down there celebrating with a friend in a restaurant when a gunman walked in and opened fire within 5 feet of my son. So you can only imagine. He's fine. He's safe. We're safe. Everything's good. He's actually in the room making more noise than he should.
Yeah. Not a quiet door opener.
No. But
we love you.
They had the sound mind to flip a table over and kind of crouch down, and the gunman had a specific target, thank God, and ran out of the restaurant after letting off a couple rounds. So the first phone call we got, of course, was they're safe. We're safe. We're just waiting for the police, all clear. We're crouched behind the table. My wife and I, who had waited all year to go see a comedian, were in Uptown at the Spectrum Center when we got that phone call. So I'm literally in a Coliseum with thousands of people who were preparing to laugh. Like, that was the intention of the night. And my son is crouched behind a table. So this series as a whole kind of came alive for me in that moment. And this tool set that I'm not saying I didn't have before this moment, but it was freshly sharpened and freshly prepped. Immediately, even not just in me, but in the heart of my wife, who, as we, of course, left the Coliseum and began to make our way back to our boy, my brother Ray was there and did a great job of kind of scooping them up and waiting for them and then bringing them to my parents' house where we all kind of rendezvoused, and my family was all together. My other son, thank God, was playing basketball with a bunch of guys from the church. So when we all finally got together, there was just kind of this sense of relief. But he was 5 feet, Ash, 5 feet. Matter of fact, I just got a Facebook message from one of the waitresses who works at the restaurant, who we're good friends with. We've known her for years. And she was telling us about the goodness of God. She was in the room when it happened, and how one of the bullets was so close to my son. And immediately upon the news and understanding how ugly the situation was, the thought came, right? And so as soon as it came, because we're fresh in the middle of this all, I started asking the question, is this thought of you? If is this idea, like, I don't know about you, but when this type of stuff happens, if I'm not careful, I go to writing, like I go to the place where I start planning funerals, right? Like, so the thought of 5 more feet, and this is totally different, was immediately captured and laid before the foot of the throne. I don't understand this. I don't know why my son's not safe a block from my house where we've been living for 7 years. I don't know why he would be in this. I don't get the reality of why somebody would choose to do what they did. But I was able, because of the nature of the message and the season we're in, to immediately capture the thought and surrender it to him. And my thanksgiving was, but I know you love him more than I do. And I'm thankful that I serve a God who loves him more than I do. Because before we knew of Michael or Noah, they were woven together in this secret place.
Yeah.
They were given purpose and intention. And for those who don't know, my boys are adopted. So even the fact that they're a part of my life and I'm a part of their life, like, I begin to thank God in that moment of all the things that even make this tough, right? And in that Thanksgiving, I began to sense a peace. And so I'm doing 85, down 85, which,
It's not as uncommon as you may seem.
yeah. And if there's a police officer watching this, I apologize, but I don't think you can give me a ticket after the fact. Maybe they can. I don't know. This isn't a confession. But as I'm driving down the road,
hypothetically,
my wife is next to me, and she's quick to put her hand on my arm, and she just starts saying, "He's good. We're fine." That funeral you're playing in your head, right? Like, that's not real. That's the enemy trying to make this thing spiral. So because this is so fresh to us, and it was delivered, and it's just been the benefit that I have as a preacher of the word is I get so much from the time of study and preparation that those tool sets were just so ready. And so even now, as we've been navigating this, it's only been a couple days. It seems like it's crazy. But
this week has been a year.
Yeah. I've had so many people reach out, so many people text. And so just yesterday night, me and her in the house and getting ready for bed. I'm sure I was watching wrestling or something. And she leaned over and said, "It's crazy because there's points where I feel like I should feel different, but this peace makes no sense. It just doesn't even feel natural, because it's not. It's supernatural." And I'm not saying we're at the end of it, of dealing with some of the hardship of this. My boy's doing great. He's dealing with it like a superhero in my head. Like he's just navigating it so well. But like a 15-year-old boy would, right? And so we're excited about that God's been faithful in that area. But my goodness, what a What an incredibly timely word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've taken away from this series, this is the amp up, my family says, to our grief season. And so this is kind of like the start of the year where all of the anniversaries start to take place for us. Like, oh, this is whenever we knew mom was going to start, she was starkly declining and everything. And it was just a reminder of God's goodness in those moments. There was the day, so for those of you guys who didn't hear my sermon on Sunday, when I was in my second trimester, we were pregnant in between my boys, Henry and Jack, and I went to the hospital and they couldn't find the heartbeat on the Doppler because, my placenta was in the front. We went to the ultrasound room. They couldn't find a heartbeat. My doctor told me that, and I just had to go. Like, I said, I can't stay here. And she's like, okay, I can call you later. I said, yeah, that's good. So I was waiting out in the parking lot. I didn't feel good enough to go home, to drive home. And some missionaries, actually, that Hope City supports now, they were borrowing my car anyways. So John Wayne just came and got my car. They followed us back to our house, sort of thing. But all I wanted in that moment was my mom. And that's why it wrecked me whenever Pastor John was talking about his mom. And I was like, I don't have that ability because my mom passed, 6 months before that. And I felt God's peace because I had turned to John Wayne. I said, all I want is my mom. And we stopped at the gas station across the street from the hospital because, of course, I run out of gas all the time. And I'm sitting there, John Wayne's pumping the gas, and I feel my phone start vibrating. And I look down, and it was Denise Field calling me. And I don't know if you're grieving or not, but there's kind of like a couple people in your life after your parents die that remind you of them, and they kind of take you under your wing. And Denise was one of those people for me. So for the Lord to have placed her in that moment, seconds after I had turned to John and say, I just want my mom. And all she did was sit on the phone with me while we both cried. It's not like she said any magic words. It's not like she said anything to change my life. She was just there. And I feel like that's God's peace in a nutshell. And like my husband, John Wayne, we have like a, 1,400 square foot shop, whatever. He has so many tools. I kid you not. I can't even name all of them. And so I have an extensive knowledge of tools. It's impressive how many I can name. I'm not saying like, oh, I don't know what a hammer is. No, but what I'm saying is John Wayne asks to get a certain tool every once in a while, more often than I would like to admit to. But I'm like, why do you need that? And he's like, well, I need it for this project. And I'm like, yeah, but like you only need it one time. And he said, you don't understand. This is the only thing that gets this project done. So I need it. And at the beginning of our marriage, I would be like, oh, that's just an excuse. But now that I've done some of these projects with him, I understand the vitality of having those tools. And when you need them, you need them. And they've come up in multiple projects. But God's peace is the ultimate tool. God himself is the tool, and it can fill every single job and project that you need. And so having those in the moments where you just need to feel seen. You just need to feel like he's holding your everything together. I just urge people to experience his peace and learn about his peace before that happens. Because you don't want to learn about it, that you don't have that tool in the time that you need it most. I'd rather have it before that,
That's a good word.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I know holidays can be really hard for a lot of people. They can be full of celebration, but you can also be super aware of people who are missing or just things that have happened or just feel alone. And I just believe God is creating this opportunity. If you're watching this podcast or you're listening to us, maybe you're listening on your drive to something that you're anxious about doing this week. All you have to do is ask him. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is invite him to say, God, I need your peace. I know you're here. I surrender. And he's right here, and he'll give it to you right now, even while you're driving, even if whatever you're doing. So I would encourage you to do that, and just know that you're not alone. He draws near to the brokenhearted. I love, we're we're kind of turning into where we're headed. I didn't mean to do that, but we're
Oops.
we're heading into his presence.
Yep.
Is what we're going to be talking about as we move into our Christmas season. And his presence and his peace, they're inseparable because like he is the Prince of Peace, and he's present with you where you are.
Omnipresent.
Yeah, just invite him in. And I was going to ask you where we're headed, but I just kind of said,
Hope is Born, man.
Yeah.
The Hope is Born series, which will parallel our big event. I love stepping into a season where now we get to brag on this God that we celebrate in with Christmas, right? Like this Christmas season. And so his presence, his peace, his protection, and his promises. And I would argue that all those things are a product of his presence, right?
Yeah.
Like that he's close, and because he's close, there's peace, and because he's close, there's protection, and because he's close, there's promise.
yeah,
And this is going to be a great series, and this is one you don't want to miss because every Sunday there's something different. And then again, the 19th,
Hope is Born.
Hope is Born. Tickets are available now. Make sure you jump on those because they are definitively limited. There's only so much we can do, and it's not like we can do multiple nights. We got one night on this thing, one
Yeah.
crack.
This kid's
so
performance is going to be lit. So better be there, be square.
that's right.
Yeah, so we'll be kicking off our Hope is Born series on Sunday at 9 and 11 at both our expressions. We can't wait to see you then.